stories about Rasheed Wallace outside. He's just the most fundamental Detroitish basketball player.
We have similar hair.
Oh, okay.
I will say that. No, I don't have any strange stories.
It's like, nah, man. Shout out to the Pistons. Shout out to the Lakers. During that time, I was definitely a Lakers fan, but the Pistons definitely made me question that. So, what's up, brother, man? How we doing today, man? What's the vibes going on, man? We got a lot of things that's been happening in the world, right? You know, the president just dropped out. Kamala Harris is stepping up.
Yes.
We got tornadoes happening in Chicago.
Today?
Oh, that was last week, actually. Yeah, do you know that? Yeah, there was tornadoes in Chicago, right? It was like 9 of them.
Oh, goodness gracious.
And, you know, I'm trying to get this passport, man, because I just feel like I'm going to need it in a couple minutes. So what you got going on, man? What's a quick little teacher tip you'll give out to there for educators right now who's resting?
A teacher tip. Knowledge of self. Knowing yourself is integral. You know, you bring your entire self to the role, whatever that role is when you're in leadership. I tell the students the prospective teachers I work with, you have to be a good leader before you can be a good teacher. Mm-hmm. And I think we've talked about that before. Like, you have to be a good leader. Like, you have to be willing to be reflective and be in touch with yourself and be in touch with what is actually happening when you are processing what is happening in a classroom and processing your life. We all experience stresses, and we bring those stresses to everything else that we do. So being reflective, being able to find peace, being able to ramp up your ability to take care of yourself is very important. So know yourself. Know yourself, know your limitations, know which limitations you're willing to push, and know which battles to fight when it's going to potentially impact your peace.
Boom. Brother Wallace is a MC, very eloquent, and definitely a mentor. I've known you for years since I've been in Detroit, and I just really respect the fact that you are a hip hop savant, and at the same time you are educator, right? And those things can be, synonymous or, interchangeable or used to help either the field. But I guess, why is hip hop so important to your just overall pedagogy, right? And then what does flow mean to you when it comes to mine?
Okay, so hip hop is a set of literacies that are grounded in culture, grounded in commerce, grounded in communication, enterprise. Hip hop at this point governs interaction to a degree, because
interaction.
Hip hop involves personal expression and independence on a very fundamental level, but it also involves confrontation. It also and confrontation on all levels, like be it intellectual, be it ideological, so on and so forth. So hip hop is a manner of expression and a manner of being able to say, I don't care what the system says, I'm going to do it this way. So that's how it integrates with, other institutions. Like, it's almost like the culture of innovation in a way. I think before the hip hop generation, there was a very prescribed way that things were done for a lot of people. Like, before the hip hop generation, it was pretty standard that, just speaking, I'm from Flint, Michigan. Yeah. Just speaking that you potentially graduate from high school, you go into the plant, you work your 30 years and then you retire and you got a Cadillac, so on and so forth. Hip hop kind of showed that you could kind of carve out your own lane. So it's like almost like the manifestation of the American dream in a way. And I think the way that rolls into schools is that we have to understand that perspective to be able to effectively work with kids. Yeah. Because we have to have, as opposed to us taking kids and putting them in a culture that churns them out as citizens, we kind of have to determine which lane kids want to go in, and we have to be able to provide them with the resources to maximize that lane. Yeah. Kids not saying, when I was young kids said they wanted to be an astronaut, they wanted to be a lawyer, they wanted to be this, now kids are saying, I want to be a content creator.
Right.
I want to be a video game streamer. But there are still skills that need to be taught in order for them to be able to maximize that skill, to maximize that dream or maximize that desire. So I think some of that comes with hip hop. And so I'm very happy that I'm able to take what I've learned from hip hop on multiple levels, not even in terms of things that are actionable, but the different perspectives, the storytelling, the philosophies, the engagement with new knowledge all came through hip hop. So for me, flow is moving into a space of your subconscious where things become automatic. You turn off the voluntary.
Yeah.
We've all seen, we can freestyle. We can sit in here right now. We gonna freestyle, and freestyling is high cognitive activity, by the way. Obviously, you know this. Like, it is amongst the highest orders of cognitive activity. Yeah. But you can get in here and you can start rapping about stuff that's in the room and this, that, and the third, and our brains are processing and emoting at the same time. And so flow, you're right. So flow is when you get into a space where your subconscious just takes over, in my opinion. That's what I've seen happen with creatives.
I think specifically when we talk about like black men, and we think about like black men who've been products of the system, they've been martyrs of the system, they've been completely disbarred from the system. A lot of them are great writers. A lot of them unfortunately experienced prison time where they got to sit down. You was talking about sitting down, being quiet, sit down, write some things down, right, and be able to tap into some type of hip hop, right, or tap into some type of vibe, or tap into some type of flow in order to just buy time. I remember when I first started flowing, I just was doing it just so I could, have some type of therapy on my first year teaching, because it was so bad, right? And I was trying to figure out not only just to be culturally in some type of element, but also how to connect with my kids, but not forcing it. So I guess, like, growing up as a kid, did you experience flow a lot with your teachers? And can maybe give like an example of that that really inspired you?
I think for me, I was a writer. And you know how you read things and you kind of stop the voluntary reading. Like, you get in and you look up and you read like 35 pages and stuff.
The standards.
So flow for me was about getting engaged in like this absorption of knowledge, and then also the expression, because I was writing songs. Shout out to LaToya Thompson if she ever hear this. We were writing songs at 10, 9 years old. Yeah. I got a tape at home. We were a group. It was called, I was like 11. We were called the Organized Crime Unit.
Okay.
And I'm writing songs about political stuff and writing songs about being a young drug dealer, and writing a song about my perspectives about relationships. And I was getting a lot of respect from my peers and my friends because I was really, really like coaching, like really, it was really together. Like, I knew how to write songs structurally, how to use my voice, so on and so forth. So I think that writing rhymes taught me about that. And then I take it all the way, up to recent times where, I had to get in the flow to finish my PhD. Like, there will be times where I say, I have 1 hour today. Yeah. And I'm going to completely dial in. And dialing in is tougher now than it ever has been.
Absolutely.
Ever has been. So having that ability to get there, you have to like consciously say, I'm going to put my phone away. I'm going to focus in on this one thing. And then the other thing I would say too is I look at hip hop from the perspective of the rhyme writer and the social, the social commentary and all that kind of stuff. But I also look at it from the production standpoint, because making beats requires you to be present.
Right.
And you can start making beats or mixing and stuff like that, and you can look up and it's 2:30 in the morning.
Right.
And so being able to ground yourself in being present and not focusing on the past or the future or what came in your email earlier today or this, that, and the third, being able to kind of be present in that moment is a part of flow as well.
And that's why I love music so much, because it really forces you, no matter whatever the tempo is, to adjust to that tempo, right? So if it's a slow song, you got to listen a little bit more patiently. If it's a fast song, you're probably not listening at all, but you catching the vibes. And I think you talked about earlier of just having that time where you can get into flow. A lot of kids don't have that time. A lot of people don't have that time, especially when you're working, when you trying to be something that you're not, when you're following people, being able to, I think of like Nas, right? Nas Illmatic, right? He got into some type of flow that was completely out of this world, because not only is he talking about what's going on as a young drug dealer in Queens, right?
Queensbridge. Shout out to
Queensbridge, right? You could literally hear the similarities between him and Chief Keef. It's just a different type of literacy. It's a different type of vocabulary. It's a different type, like he's talking about selling and doing, and like it's like 18 years old, right? Yeah. But the vocabulary is like Shakespeare level. You know what I'm saying? And his delivery is so simplistic.
The thing that separates the periods that Nas and Chief Keef occupied, like in terms of being vanguard, Nas is so descriptive.
Yeah,
like there's a descriptiveness in his writing that puts you in the place in a way that's different than Chief Keef and some of what we've seen come after Chief Keef, where they've become masters of saying a little to say a lot. And because hip hop has become so visual and we're acquainted so much with the lifestyles of what people encounter via social media and stuff like that, we almost know what's being alluded to by what it's saying. Like Rick Ross on one song said, he was talking about it's a song called what is it? The game ain't based on sympathy, I think, or something. And he said, he just said Martha Stewart decorated my house, and he says my new house, and he said he was talking about his house in Georgia.
Yeah,
and he said Snoop Dogg provided the smoke. Right.
Yeah.
He's not lying.
Yeah.
That Martha Stewart kind of is in the same spaces as some of these cats nowadays. That's what Snoop does. Like, we know so much that they don't have to say as much as what they used to say in order to describe their lives and pull us in. And I think great artists I was telling somebody the other day, shout out to Lauren Blackford and Lori and Janine, two singer-songwriters that are acoustic, which I really been getting into recently.
Cool.
Great artists either bring you in to their universe or they come into your universe and like label things that you are feeling and experiencing that you don't even know are there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Rick Ross and the Chief Keefs and all of that kind of do. But they're aided by the fact that things are so visual and we're so engaged and involved.
I think Lil Wayne did that a lot too, like during his like dedication mixtape era, when he was just literally just pushing out tapes, freestyling, right, and just, you know what I'm saying, just pushing out a lot of like product. And I remember like being in Northern Virginia after Katrina, and leaving New Orleans, losing my culture kind of. Lil Wayne was like my only culture identity. Like that was how I connected back to New Orleans. I was losing my accent. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see my mom every day. Literally moved out of Louisiana. And so just having like that person there, it was like some type of like refuge. It was some type of like, that's why I always say Lil Wayne's the greatest rapper alive, just because I experienced Katrina and I just needed some type of, connection to it. And so I think every kid has that. And I think the purpose is to figure out how you can tap into your own right flow and be able to either go back and write something really, Shakespearean, or you can just do something that's, off the cuff, kind of like how Lil Wayne does. And so let's talk about your experience from, being an adult to where you're now, where you're a PhD and you wrote this amazing, piece of work. Why, what was the struggle? What was the productive struggle with that, or the everyday struggle?
So I was a high school administrator and had the opportunity to go to higher ed. I really had an interest in what was happening in schools involving music production. Not so much like music programs, but more so music production, because I felt like it was at the nexus of, and what was eventually confirmed, shout out to Dr. Ian Levy and Raphael Travis and them, music production, because it has such deep cultural ties, kind of sits at the nexus of creativity, introduction to STEM concepts,
mass communications,
the kids love it, all of these different things, as well as, you know, we had kids that was at Rouge that was coming to school to make beats.
We had them there. Period.
We had them there, and they went to the rest of their classes, but that fourth period was like, that's where they kind of was able to become, you know,
element.
313 Dre or whatever they wanted to be, which was cool. So we had kids that came for that. So what I wanted to do was, when I did get the opportunity to go to Eastern, I wanted to study that. So I started studying it and did more and more research. Shout out to Emery Petchower, excuse me, and all of the hip hop minds that are in academia that really took me in and said, yeah, you one of us. So what I found was, you know, first of all, you know, people who make music don't need to be making music in a room anymore. Like, it's hard to make a recording studio that's successful, because people can make the music on their own. Kids making beats on BandLab. So why not provide them with the infrastructure and the education to be able to do what they want with it, and teach them transferable skills along the way? So there's that. We also built the Amplify project, which it began as a fellowship program where we supplied talented Black musicians with support to make the music they wanted to make in exchange for community service. Go do 3 hours of community service. We'll pay for all the studio time that you got. So it taught me a lot about hip hop. It confirmed a lot that I knew about hip hop. It also showed me that hip hop is the continuation of the tradition of Black music that says things that we comprehend and understand that the system doesn't catch up to until 10 to 15 minutes later.
Just like the emphasis on the emphasis on Detroit culture is very like known for this. Just the emphasis on like ciphers, right? You know, ciphers is really, really, it's overlooked and underrated. Like our kids, what I mean by not like rapping cipher, I just mean just like cuddling up. Being able to collectively be together within union without there being any, you know, competition, right? You know, right. You know, people do it recreationally, people do it through music, people do it through freestyles, but that's a part of hip hop, being able to be in a circle, right? And when it's your time to perform, it's your time to perform. But there's judgment, but there's no judgment, because it's all about the vibe, you know? It is. And that is what really fascinated me with just, you know, obviously Detroit, but like, you know, Detroit culture, and specifically like, you know, if you want to talk about underground Detroit, they will have like 7 dudes on one track, you know what I'm saying? And they just going back and forth, right? You know, they got the bounce beat mixed with the Chicago drum. Like it's very cross regional, and it's collaborative, it's fun, it's competitive, it's simple, it's competitive, right? Because a lot of their similes and metaphors are very funny and catchy, and you know what I'm saying? And but one thing I really figured is just the power of the peer group. You know what I'm saying? The power of the peer group on specifically Black boys. And that's why I really got into audio engineering as well, because I noticed that my boys get more sanctuary in the studio than they do in class, right? You know, like they are more at peace. I see them more at peace when they're with each other in the studio than they are in class, right? They're full authentic selves, right? Where they can get in the studio, say what they want, and still not feel like they have to be something that they're not, or feel like they're not contributing to society. And that I really, really I love the studio because of that. And so as we continue, kind of just talk about like, what is your PhD in, and why did you want to go in that specific route, and what do you want to do with it? So my PhD is about Black male educators who are also hip hop creators. Wow. MCs, producers, DJs, so on and so forth. We ended up working with a strong group of about 9 cats who are all rhyme writers, producers, so on and so forth. And we did focus groups with them about
what they thought about their role was in education, since we only constitute 1.3% of all public school educators.
Wow.
We talked about challenges that they faced. Some of this stuff were themes that just kind of came out of our conversations. So we had focus groups. We had semi-structured interviews where I interviewed people one-on-one. And then I turned them loose to make music about the stuff that we were talking about. And they did songs, and I broke down things that were coming out of the songs that they talked about.
Why was that a needed practice?
Because I think it allowed me to kind of triangulate the data in a way. Because if I'm hearing one thing during focus groups about the roles and pressures that come along with like heteronormative behavior in school, and I'm hearing it in a I can hear it in a focus group, and then ask somebody in a semi-structured interview, like, this was something that was said. What do you think about that? It gives me a different data set there. And then also I'm hearing this in a song that they created too, where it may be a line, and we, just like we talked about, it's a lot being said in a short amount of time. So it gave me an opportunity to collect qualitative data in a different way, because hip hop, writing rhymes, especially for people who do that, it taps into your subconscious.
And it allows you to say many words with very few words.
Absolutely.
And be more impactful.
Absolutely.
I think J. Cole's in the club, in Ibiza, song with Ibiza off the Mike Delete Later, he said, instead of being some incredible dude, just let him hear all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. You know what I'm saying? And you can, like, and pretty much what I got from that lyric is just like, he could write Food and Clothes and be treated trash, and he can write, Power Trip and be treated like a king. But he's saying that I'm gonna give you all of it,
right? Versus
him just literally saying in an interview, it's more impactful through a song.
I said on one song, I said on a journey. Wait a minute, what did I say? You're gonna have to cut this part out.
No, just take your time.
I said,
what'd you say?
Self-doubt is like a pit I've been climbing out for a grip. Just stay focused on the things you can hold inside your hands. So when times get hard and people start jumping ship, seek solace and notice it's just part of the plan. But they won't let me. They won't listen. They want to forget me. They don't buy music. They ain't listening. They ain't conscious thinking directly. Who are they? They ain't moving around. They can't connect me. They say they cool with me, but diss me indirectly. But G, honestly, think about the things that I say they be. Inner dialogue is like Freud's ID. Or maybe it's the ego that we take lightly. But the super ego be what you can't see. Wait a minute. They is me.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Saying a lot.
But saying a
little.
And that's that's why hip hop is super dope. I think that's why also teachers need to be hip hop educators, like Christopher Emdin says. And it's not that you are doing hip hop songs every day. It's just you're first of all, you're embracing hip hop in its four elements. You are incorporating it into your everyday practice in a way where it's authentic, and that means that you're doing your research, right? You're doing your due diligence so you can understand your kids, and then it becomes a part of you before you become a part of it, I feel. And in order for you to implement it effectively, you have. So I remember, I used to get bullied a lot. I went to Lividays. Lividays is a segregated school turned integrated during like the 70s, and it's pretty much it's a very opulent school, but they bust kids from inner cities there.
Yes, sir.
And so you get the dynamics there. But I grew up in the suburbs, so you can imagine, like, you got different socioeconomic statuses, right. And the kids know who you are based off of not just what you wear, not just based off how tight your pants are, but also your dialect.
Right.
So I was always ostracized because I had a way more proper dialect. Even though I was black, I wasn't accepted amongst the black people that much, right? And it wasn't until I learned how to do this dance. Right,
because it was cultural capital.
Yes, and I practiced this dance. It was called the skip. It's like the skip because in the world everything's fast, and I will practice this dance every single day after school. And it was how I became excellent at it. And I remember one time I just did it during volleyball practice. And it was like, okay, now what I'm saying, the kids that this is shallow. The kids I was trying to get the attention from.
He said this is shallow.
They finally gave me the attention that I wanted because I showed, like you said, social capital. And that's what I mean by doing a due diligence and being able to do it that works with you. I didn't sing. I didn't rap. What I could do was dance.
It was cultural capital.
And they still probably treated me like shit after, but
maybe.
I never forgot that moment.
I think I think that's how we all find our way. I was nerdy, you know what I'm saying? But my way of earning cultural capital,
passage.
hip hop kind of provided a common ground for all of us to be able to come. Yeah, it was cats that could break dance and cats that could backflip and all that. I knew about all the hip hop music that was out. Like, and so I bought all the tapes. I had like a Chester drawer that was full of tapes. You know, so people be like, hey, you know, I heard such and such was coming out on Tuesday. I'd be like, yeah, you know, and then this coming out next week and blah, blah, blah. And then come to school on Wednesday, be like, hey, did you hear the new CMW album and this, that, and third? So it allowed me to reach across different, you know, social circles.
That's a part of hip hop, though. Cataloging, having a high source of knowledge, right? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think it is as much as it used to, simply because it's done for us. Like now you have websites where you can get streaming. Yeah. You have the lyrics that's tied into it and this, that, and the third. And kids I think that people just have a completely different relationship with music than many of us.
But that is why I always tell people to download Tidal. I'm the only brother man with a Tidal app.
Why?
Because Tidal has the credits of
Spotify
all the music.
Got the credits?
Yeah, they do, but then it's not as accessible. Probably, I try to look for the credits in Spotify, but if I go to Tidal credits, they give you literally
they give you more credits.
They give you more credits. You know what I'm saying? And so you really get to know, okay, where did they get this credit from? Who took it from this sample? So, and then you go down a rabbit hole, and then you start learning about this type of sound. Like for example, I was trying to figure out who was the producer behind "Gasoline" by The Weeknd. You know, The Weeknd. And it's very morbid song.
Go ahead.
And there's a man to watch me sing. And then you turn me around so I can't breathe. Okay. And so that 90s, that 80s, 70s synth, like pop, you know, that's this band called Paradise Again, Swedish House Mafia.
Yeah.
Like,
now they're modern.
No, so I never heard nothing about them.
They make that throwback shit. I understand. I think that that's why, you know, in addition to rhyming, like rhyming is a science. Rhyming is a science that is cultivated over time, and it's cultivated by mimicking people. I still to this day hear beats, and I hear, you know who I would hear rapping over this? Method Man or Redman. What would he do to this beat? And I kind of sometimes will start there, and then, you know, obviously do my own thing.
But that's funny because people call that biting, but people don't understand that is a part of hip hop.
That's how we operate.
We always take something that inspired. Not take, but we take homage. Really, it's really paying homage.
But the thing about it is, I started rhyming, but then shout out to Calvin Miller from Ipsy. I still don't know where Calvin Miller is. I've been looking for him for 6 years. Calvin taught me the technical side of mixing and mastering and all that stuff. So it was, I like the fact that I'm involved in hip hop in a very technical way too.
Yeah, same here.
You know, and as an executive producer, being able to take entire projects and kind of put it together. I want to talk about that Dirty Old Man project too, but being able to understand it from a technical side has given me a deeper appreciation for a lot of the music that we heard when we was growing up too. Because mixing is one of those things that just everybody just can't do, you know, and even those of us that do it,
that's true.
We second guess ourselves, even though, you know, the screen tell us we doing what we supposed to do. Our ears are telling us what we supposed to do. We still operate with this paranoia. That's kind of like, I wonder how other people are going to hear it, and we're never going to hear what they hear.
But that's why I think music is such. We should embrace the collaborative piece of music, because it was a girl that inspired you to make that song. It probably was a gay man that made that beat. It probably was a white boy that did the engineer. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a collaborative thing. Music is so. We think it's like very linear, but it's everyone is involved in music. I feel like you can't have singularity in order to create the best music. Like what Twisty was talking about, Drake, how he uses ghostwriters. He said he's smart because if he knows that he can make a hit, but he knows he can make a better hit with collaboration, why not? You know what I'm saying? We Are the World. Like that's a great example. We Are the World. That's you've seen that documentary?
Yeah.
We Are the World. Like literally. Everyone probably was their average, probably below average best there.
Here's the
besides
difference.
Michael Jackson.
But right. But here's the difference. Here's the difference, though.
Classic song, though.
Hip hop is highly individualized, even when you deal with groups.
Yes, it is.
And hip hop is kind of the ethos within hip hop is in response to the lack of ownership that many of us have felt
because we've been
throughout
disenfranchised.
Not only the history of music, but our history as African Americans. Yes, absolutely. Because even many of the songs that we sang in the 60s and 70s didn't belong to us.
Yeah.
Think about how the culture of covers, like how many famous R&B singers or soul singers were like everybody had to sing Burt Bacharach shit. Everybody had to sing it. You know, it was like a standard that you had to come in and you had to sing walk on by. Like everybody had to sing those songs. And so hip hop kind of said, no, this is mine. This is me. You can't bite it. I got my own individual tag when it come to graffiti. I wear my crisscross, wear they pants this way. And so that's what makes the culture vilify the concept of ghostwriting more and more, because it is highly individualized to people's identities.
Yeah, and I appreciate that clarification, and that's important. And you want to make sure you clarified it too, because you don't want to disrespect anything. And I got this line. I said, my kids want to graduate and play for a night. I switched to the flow. That shit ain't right. I switched to the flow before a better life. And so you know, again, like, you know, being able to understand that, you know, when you switch to a flow, or when you understand the power of flow, I feel like with teachers, right? You know, we talk about hip hop educators or teachers, you know, that are hip hoply oriented. I know for me, when I'm getting ready for, like, even today, I had like 2.5 hours of sleep. I taught that class like a mug though, at 8 o'clock at U of M this morning though.
Okay.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't as prepared, but I still brought it. I knew the basics, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like when you freestyling, like, you don't know what the beat gonna be, you don't know what you're gonna say.
Memory. Yeah.
Yes.
It's muscle memory.
Excuse me, bro. Sorry. It's muscle memory. And I think more teachers, because we are artists.
Teaching is a performance art.
It's a performance art.
Teachers are MCs.
Teachers are MCs.
Teaching is performing. Think about it. Teaching is performing. It's engaging an audience.
And if
it's being able to mold content based on what your audience is. Like, for me, I may have a song that's really popular, but if I go to Cleveland and I perform that song over Thuggish Ruggish Bone, it may get received differently.
Yeah. Context.
You know, also MCs and teachers both have to have a level of social awareness. They have to be able to connect with people, so on and so forth. So that's what, you know, all of us, me and my people, Quan Nellum, shout out to Quan Nellum, shout out to Brian Ferguson Bay, all of us, that's what we're pushing. You know, we've created an organization called Engaging More Children Through Culture, Enterprise, and Expression, MC.
Yeah.
So we want to teach teachers how to be MCs. Be an MC. You know, and if you regard yourself as that and you learn about the different styles that MCs have, you can realize that every MC is not the same either. Busta Rhymes is different from Old Dirty Bastard and, you know, Lauryn Hill and this, that, and third. You have people who are extremely cerebral like Lauryn Hill.
Or like E40.
Or like E40. They're wordsmiths. So they can still hold on to their identities.
Or Pimp C.
But they have to be able to engage. Right. They have to be able to engage in a different way. And
be authentic selves.
And be authentic. Absolutely. So.
Because that's the writer patch. So thank you so much, brother, man. We got about 2 minutes left, man. What do you got coming up? What's some music that you would recommend, or what's some music you want people to check into, or what's your music? Let's talk about your music, maybe.
Me and a group of producers from all over the country called the Dirty Old Men just put out a project called Let Not Your Heart Be Troubled. It is a project that is about black men and grief. I am building a curriculum around the songs on the project. It features Finale. It features Boog Brown. It features Buff One. It features Young Dame from the Shop Talk podcast, my man. It features Mr. Pedro from Double Negative People. And check it out. We lost several of our friends in a short amount of time and stopped making music. Yeah, this was 2021. Another of us had a heart condition and got a heart transplant. So that's why the project is called Let Not Your Heart Be Troubled. It has producers from all over the country. I'm very proud of it. Check that out on all streaming platforms, on Bandcamp. If you really want to be about it, go to Bandcamp and buy it. You know what I'm saying? It's called Let Not Your Heart Be Troubled, Dirty Old Men. You can also check me out on Spotify. I got instrumental albums. I got albums where I rhymed. You know, and we got more music on the way.
Rob Wallace, man, what's some advice would you give to Calvin Nellum, who's trying to be an MC, or, you know,
and a teacher
like yourself, man? I don't know if you heard some of my stuff, man. What you think about it? And I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm just trying to be selfish on my own podcast, so people can hear. I can clip this part out.
Be able to do the Doctor Strange. kind of like come out your own body and see yourself and see how impactful your platform is as an educator and as an MC, and take it really, really seriously, because everybody can't do both. You know, as I don't know if I ever quit making music, and I'm a OG. I'm unk status. But I don't think you laughed too hard at that.
No, you said it twice. That's why I laughed.
don't think I will ever stop making music, because it allows me to kind of it's like diving back into like an ocean of my identity and what kind of got me to this place, and it connects me to the ancestors, and I can hear music and hear sound and soul querying, and it's just it's just something that's completely different for me. I'll say this real quick. Jay Dilla birthed the neo soul movement, in my opinion.
Yeah, brother.
Jay Dilla was the neo soul movement, in my opinion. And then when he came, you know, he did his instrumental albums and this, that, and the third, and he kept building and building and building. I used to play, ask my kids, I used to play Jay Dilla. I was teaching 2000, I taught from 2000 to 2008 before I became a school administrator. I used to play Jay Dilla instrumental albums quiet enough where the kids would have to be butt naked quiet to hear it. And do they work? I'm like, we got some independent work, we got some Jay Dilla going on, blah, blah, blah. And it used to stick to the ribs.
You hear that, teachers? That's the vanguard.
Yep, absolutely. And then you get into, we really started to learn about when Jay Dilla did Donuts and all that. We really started to learn about, between him and the Ninth Wonders of the world, and we was getting more exposed to some of the things even that happened in the 90s. We started to learn about how the fact that sampling is a science. Like, it already was a science before Jay Dilla, but these heavy chops, this non-reliance on this super clean stuff. Jay Dilla birthed lo-fi, or him and what's his name, Nujabes or whatever. They birthed lo-fi, they birthed neo soul, they birthed a whole different swing.
Wow.
And Detroit is responsible for that. I think Detroit has been responsible for 4 musical revolutions.
What are they?
Motown, techno,
neo soul,
Jay Dilla, and D-boy rap.
Hey, what's like well, you know, what
Pablo Skywalking.
Okay.
My man RJ. All of the guys, Doughboys and all that. I don't proclaim to know all of that.
Detroit underground rap.
You need to talk to Brandon Scarber. Brandon Scarber is the official Detroit historian of hip hop. I can put you in touch with. He could tell you anything. My brother
R. Wallace on the chat.
So, and I also want to shout out Lando from the Hip Hop Lab.
Hip Hop Lab.
I'm looking to do some work with him just in terms of chronicling that history of how hip hop and technology grew in the 2010s.
Yeah, man.
By telling his story, because he was a kid in my class. He started doing videos, shooting videos at 4 o'clock in the morning with people with K's.
Yeah, brother.
No names or whatever, but shooting videos or whatever. And now he's like a multimillionaire.
Yeah, brother, man. It's something about the Midwest, about good music and their love for the Second Amendment. And so thank you so much, brother, man, for just coming through. I hope, you know what I'm saying, we got the vibe smoothing. What you think about the podcast?
Oh, I think it's live. I think it's always live.
Thank
I like
you, brother.
The clips too.
Thank you, man.
I need to learn how to do that one day.
It's AI. So
and check out the Zero Noise podcast. I'm gonna bring that back at some point.
Yep. And then Wallace is not going nowhere because we're gonna be doing some stuff together soon. So please check out my brother man stuff, because we're not only doing this by ourselves, we collaborate. So peace out.